Happy Valentine's Day!
Hello, I'm Ryan Donato.
Hello, welcome back to another Hard Review, and I am here, of course, to talk about Hard Eyes. Hard Eyes is the new horror romance film that's coming out. I think it's from the same guy who did, like, Happy Death Day and Freaky, or at least the writers of that. And it does have a very similar vibe, because it really is playing up the comedic and the romantic subplots a lot, where the horror is more of this goofy thing. Now, I think that the horror here is much more gruesome than in those movies, and that's kind of one of the benefits of Hard Eyes, is that it really goes for the max of both things. You know, the horror is really gory and the romance is really cheesy and funny. I think the main two leads have a lot of chemistry with one another. Mason Gooding and Olivia Holt have really good chemistry here. I really like them. She's kind of weird and off-putting at certain times. He, though, I really like. Mason Gooding, I don't really care for him very much in the last two Scream movies that he was in. I like him a lot more here as the male romantic lead. I think the movie's really, really cheesy. That being said, I think the type of person who doesn't really like horror movies, like if you can't do horror movies, don't go watch this movie, but the type of person who's like not super into horror movies will be totally satiated by the romantic and comedic angles of this movie. It's really trying to play off the genre tropes of romance. Jordana Brewster is also in this movie. She plays like a detective who's kind of on the case here, which is kind of funny because we all know her from the Fast and Furious franchise, which she plays like Paul Walker's wife in those movies, and she doesn't really have much to do, and she's not really in much else outside of that. There's actually a joke in this movie where I think her and her partner's characters' names are Hobbs and Shaw, and they're like, oh, I haven't seen that movie, and they're like kind of like, fuck that movie, which is funny because like I don't know if this came out before or after the beef was squashed between Vin Diesel and The Rock. I know that Jordana Brewster is one of like the lemmings of Vin Diesel. Like every time he posts anything, she's like emojis under his like post responding every single time. It's like the funniest thing, because family, because what else does she have? So like I just imagine The Rock watching this movie and being like, but fuck you, what do you have going on? I was just in $1 billion Moana 2, man. Like, shut up. Another thing I didn't really like about this movie is I thought that the twist reveal at the end of the movie was underwhelming. Spoilers, if you want to watch this movie. I gave it 3 out of 5, so if you're done, 3 out of 5. But yeah, spoilers. I didn't like that Jordana Brewster and then the Asian guy in the police station were the villain. I thought that was kind of lame because it's not really personal. Like, I mean, I guess we built it up because they like met at a certain point, had some conversations, and obviously there was an amount of sexual tension between Jordana Brewster and Mason Gooding's character, and then obviously there was like conflict between Jordana Brewster and Olivia Holt's character. I don't know, I kind of thought it was gonna be the best friend. I mean, like we talked about how she has the sugar daddy and she has all this money now, is able to pay off all these debts, and I'm like, well, maybe it's because she's the killer and she got the money from doing that. That's the whole twist, because they say that they got the key to her apartment. She's like, oh, I must have lost it when I was in changing, like, you know, buying clothes, and she's buying clothes with her best friend, and maybe her best friend's doing that because at one point in the movie they frame Mason Gooding, like put him in like costume and everything or whatever, and the police think it's him. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe her best friend is putting her in this situation because she doesn't like this guy and she wants to fuck him over because he's about to take her job, because she does her thing at her job where she like does an ad campaign where it's a bunch of like couples dying, which really doesn't play well in the community because there's a Hard Eyes killer on the loose who kills couples, so it's like kind of in poor taste. So she kind of gets like super canceled here, and he comes in to like douse the flames, you know? But yeah, I don't know, it just kind of reminds me of like the last two Scream movies, because I thought in the Scream 5 it was really good because obviously there's a personal relationship between the killer and the hero, like that's been developed throughout the movie. It was already a pre-existing thing, and the reason why made sense. The theme, like why, like the idea why, like their manifesto reason why they're doing this whole thing had something to say. You know, it's about like toxic fandoms and all these like, you know, fans who think that they have such a, you know, intense relationship with a franchise and believe they're owed so much, and they resent these franchises for not taking them seriously. And I think that's a really fun concept. So we don't really get anything like that in Scream 6. It's not really personal, it doesn't really have anything to say. And then here it's kind of a similar thing. Like it's just them because, oh, killing is like their kink, I guess. And they chose those two honestly by happenstance, because they were gonna get the other couple who was just gonna go to the reservation even though their couple friend died, but they were like, no, we just saw you guys passionately kiss, and we were like, nah, we're gonna do you guys instead. So then it bears in mind like, okay, well then how did they get into her apartment? You know what I mean? Like, because we talked about the key situation. I don't know. So this is like such an underwhelming reveal. I don't know, it's really cheesy. There's like a scene where they're like naming every rom-com as she's like about to go get him at the airport to try to save him at the end. It didn't really work for me too much. Like, it's cute, it's fine, but a lot of people are like putting this up at a 4. It's more of a 3 for me because it's fine. It's a little too cheesy, and then the horror is not too cool, and then it doesn't really have anything to say, and it's not really personal, and the twist is kind of underwhelming. I won't really rewatch it ever, and I don't really think it's really technically all that well made. So 3 out of 5. Thank you guys so much for watching this movie. Like, comment, subscribe. I want you to tell me what your favorite romantic horror movie is. Mine would probably be, I don't know why one of the first movies that comes to mind is Jennifer's Body.